Hey, it's Brett. Thank you for stopping by or returning to my channel. So today I wanted to talk to you guys now that the crush of halfway top tens, best of the year so far lists have all come out. Now that we've been inundated with more lists than we ever knew what to do with from the New York Times, I wanted to talk about 10 books that were published in the first part of this year that I want to get to by the end of this year. So stick around. So before we begin, I wanted to talk about one book that I am in the middle of, almost finished with right now, that I want to highly recommend to all of you. And for those of you who do audiobooks, this thing is incredible, which is Ben Shattuck's The History of Sound. It is a series of stories that a lot of them are linked. Not all of them, but usually it's A and B are linked, then C and D, and that's how the format kind of works. They're all stories set up and around New England. It feels very Americana. There's elements of this that have reminded me of the Northwoods, although there's no ghosts, there's nothing like that. And as much as I complain so many times about like not loving short story collections, I have to tell you that every one of these stories has been a gem. They're so well told, they're so well crafted, and the audio is done with a complete cast, including actors Chris Cooper, Paul Mescal, just a first-rate cast. It's literally like listening to a play. I can't recommend this enough. Certainly right now, this is in the running to be one of my favorites of the year. So there's that. Okay, so now on to things that could also end up being a best of the year. These are in no real particular order. It's just how I've kind of thrown them on here. So let's just go. First is Lost Man's Lane by Scott Carson. It says Michael Marshall would have remembered her face even if he hadn't seen it on a missing poster. When a young woman goes missing in a small town, the investigation hinges on Marshall's haunting sighting of her, crying in the backseat of a police car driven by a cop named Maddox. There's only one problem. No local cop named Maddox exists, but the speeding ticket he handed to Marshall certainly does. Dealing with police and media is heady stuff for a teenager, the son of a single mother, but Marshall is sure he can handle it until the shocking day when his reliability as a witness implodes. Now, scorned and shamed, he finds unlikely allies as he confronts the ancient secrets behind his small town's peaceful facade and learns the truth about his own family. Lost Man's Lane is a coming-of-age tale that proves why its author has been hailed as, quote, a master by Stephen King and one who consistently offers eerie, gripping storytelling by Dean Koontz. Have never read anything by this guy. It came to my attention because of the Stephen King quote, frankly. And it's summer, so it's all about thrillers. I don't know if I'll get to it soon, but I really want to get to this by the end of the year. So that's the first. Okay, this one I'm talking about now, but I'm probably going to be talking about it next week too, because next week I'm going to come at you with some thoughts about what I think could be on the Booker long list, which comes out next week, which is Andrew O'Hagan's Celedonian Road. I love a chunky book, and this is certainly a chunky book, a biting portrait of British class politics and money told through 5 interconnected families and their rising and declining fortunes. I don't know why, but I'm totally getting Tom Wolfe, Bonfire of the Vanity vibes from this, and if you read it, I'd love to know your thoughts below, but I think this sounds so good. I absolutely think this cover is also fantastic, so... Another massive chunkster is Greg Iles' Southern Man. This is one of the Penn Cage novels. There is something called the Natchez, Mississippi, Natchez trilogy that Greg Iles wrote, which are truly phenomenal books. And if you're someone who likes Don Winslow, would be like Greg Iles. They're southern, dark southern thrillers. Really intricately told. It kind of really digs into the brutality of the South in terms of racism. If you're an essay Cosby fan, Greg Iles also might be for you. But this is his latest novel, and it's just massive. It's the hugely anticipated new Penge Cage novel about a man in a town racked by anarchy and tragedy, but unbowed in the fight to save those they love. So again, this is clocking in at almost 923 pages. So I don't know when I'm going to get to this, but I really, really do want to read this by the end of the year. And this might have to be like break it down into 30 pages a day kind of thing and read it over 2 months. So something that I had on my TBR a few months ago and just didn't get around to it was Hanif Abdurraqib's There's Always This Year on Basketball and Ascension. Little Devil in America, which is his previous book, I thought was so brilliant. This is nonfiction, as was that. This says, from Hanif Abdurraqib, MacArthur Fellow and author of the National Book Award finalist A Little Devil in America, comes a poignant personal reflection on basketball, life, and home. Growing up in Columbus, Ohio in the 1990s, Hanif Abdurraqib witnessed a golden era of basketball, one in which legends like LeBron James were forged and countless others weren't. His lifelong love of the game leads Abdurraqib into a lyrical, historical, and emotionally rich exploration of what it means to make it, who he thinks deserve success, the tension between excellence and expectation, and the very notion of role models, all of which he expertly weaves together with intimate personal storytelling. Here's where I would like to tell you about the form on my father's jump shot, Abdurraqib writes. The truth is, I saw my father shoot a basketball only one time. There's Always This Year as a triumph brimming with joy, pain, solidarity, comfort, outrage, and hope. No matter the subject of his keen focus, whether it's basketball or music or performance, Hanif Abdurraqib's exquisite writing is always poetry, always profound, and always a clarion call to radically reimagine how we think about our culture, our country, and ourselves. He truly is visionary and brilliant. If you don't get this, at least to get A Little Devil in America. It's truly just brilliant. He's a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant guy. And so I'm really excited about that. Beautyland by Marie-Helene Bertino. This is also getting some buzz for the Booker. A story about a young girl who discovers that she is an alien who's been placed on Earth to discover kind of the way that we as humans interact and kind of report back. It sounds totally weird, but it's supposed to be really beautiful, very moving. I don't know yet whether I'll do this on audio or just read the book, but I went out and got this from bookshop.org because I just had been hearing so many people talk about it, and I really didn't want to let this slip by. I think this also can be just beyond even, if not the Booker, but the kind of book that can be talked about as we're continuing into book awards season. So. All right, Greta and Valdin by Rebecca Reilly. Rebecca Reilly was one of the guests that we had on for the Gaze Reading podcast as part of our upcoming Up and Coming series. But when we started this series, just because of the volume of books that we were reading, Jason and I had split on certain books, and I would take some and he would take the others. And this was one that he read that I didn't. So I've heard so many people subsequently love this book and talk about this book that I want to go back and really read it. It's the story of two siblings, their loves, their lives, their foibles. So I just really interested. And Rebecca is so funny and such a hoot that if the book is anything like she is, it's going to be fantastic. The Coin by Yasmin Zaher. This again, a lot of buzz surrounding this, and this may come up next week when I'm talking about the Booker. A bold and unabashed novel about a young Palestinian woman's unraveling as she teaches at a New York City middle school, gets caught up in a scheme reselling Birkin bags, and strives to gain control over her body and mind. I love this cover. Again, I'm hearing nothing but great things about this book. And if it wasn't for these various book communities, I don't know that I ever would have seen this. So excited about that. This came out really early in the year, The Other Valley by Scott Alexander Howard. And I got it right away and I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to read it. And of course, immediately shelved it and was distracted by 10,000 other things. So it just says, to the east is the future, to the west is the past. If you were permitted to cross the valley's borders, which direction would you go? So 16-year-old Odile vies for a coveted seat on the council. If she earns the position, she'll decide who may cross the town's heavily guarded borders. To the east, the same town is 20 years ahead in time. To the west, it's 20 years behind. The town repeat in an endless sequence across the wilderness. When Odile recognizes two visitors she wasn't supposed to see, she realizes that the parents of her friend Edme have been escorted across the border from the future on a morning tour to view their son while he's still alive in Odile's present. Edme, who is brilliant, funny, and the only person to truly know Odile, is about to die. Sworn to secrecy in order to preserve the timeline, Odile now becomes the council's top candidate, yet she finds herself drawing closer to the doom boy, imperiling her entire future. Okay, I haven't looked at this since I had it, and doesn't this sound so good? So yeah, I also think that's a cool cover. I want to fold it. Green Dot by Madeline Gray. This kind of slipped under the radar. And again, I've heard really great things about it. And no one I know is personally has read it. An irresistible and messy love story about the terrible allure of wanting something that promises nothing. At 25, Hera is a clump of unmet potential. A clump of unmet potential. To her, the future is nothing but an exhausting thought exercise, one depressing hypothetical after another. She's sharp in more ways than one, adrift in her own strong malaise, until her new job, moderating the comments section of an online news outlet, a role even more mind-numbing than it sounds, introduces her to Arthur, a middle-aged journalist. Though she's preferred women to men for years now, she soon finds herself falling into an all-consuming affair with him. She is coming apart with want and loving every second of it. Well, except for the tiny hiccup that Arthur has a wife and that she has no idea that Hera exists. With its daringly specific and intimate voice, Green Dot is a darkly hilarious and deeply felt examination of the joys and indignities of coming into adulthood against the pitfalls of the 21st century and the winding, torturous, and often very funny journey we take in deciding who we are and who we want to be. This sounds like something that Phoebe Waller-Bridge would have done or adapted or written. So I think it sounds really fun. And finally, for my nonfiction fans out there, Radiant, The Life and Line of Keith Haring by Brad Gooch. Brad Gooch, I had read some of his fiction in the past, but haven't heard from him in years. And this came out a few months ago, and I, again, immediately was so interested in reading it and just never got around to it. And it's not the shortest book either, too, clocking at about 450 pages. But certainly I could hold on to this for Nonfiction November. But I'm really interested in Haring and his life. And the reviews for this have been sterling, stellar, fantastic. So I'm totally interested. So there you guys go. 10 books that I'm interested in still reading. Let me know if you've read any of these yet or if any of these pique your interest. I will be back Tuesday where I'm going to talk about potential Booker nominees. And I'm saying it right out. I am not an expert, so these will totally be shot in the dark, and maybe I'll get one or two of them. But, you know, it's all for fun. So I hope you guys are having a great week. Thank you again for being here, and I will see you all next week.